This is the Mindset of a Hustler podcast. This is episode 10, and I am very happy to introduce you this very happy human, Halle Madeleine, who is the founder of the Free Energy Collective, which is a media agency. And she is also the founder of the Happiest Humans project, which we'll talk a lot about this because it's probably one of my favorite Colorado-based organizations that are out right now. Just everything about it. So I am so happy to introduce you.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, of course. So let's just jump into the Happy Human project. There's a really, really interesting story behind it and why you developed it.
I started as not a happy human, and I found myself in just like a very dark place in life. And I was actually in engineering school, and I'm a very creative person, so there's that whole element of like when your creativity is repressed and you don't have an outlet for it, then it kind of gets like bottled up inside of you and you don't know what to do with it. And there was like a lot of depression and anxiety and physical manifestations of those things, and I was very unhappy, and I became suicidal at one point, and it was kind of this like, just to start this off, we're going in deep real fast, but I basically was kind of taking on the elements of engineering school, which were very almost like unhealed toxic masculinity type of thing, of like putting like pressure on, like you always have to be taking action, and if you got like 8 hours of sleep last night, then clearly you're not trying hard enough. It just was like so out of alignment. And I discovered photography, and my senior year I started building up my portfolio, and I was like, okay, I'm still going to get my degree and graduate, but at this point, now that I've discovered that photography is a career, I'm pursuing this. And I did. My goal was to travel the world, and so I hustled and built up my business and basically pitched a bunch of brands, and spent the first kind of year or two, I think it was almost 2 years of my business, just traveling nonstop and traveling the world and shooting photos for brands, which I thought was my goal, and I thought that was what was going to fulfill me. And it kind of got to the point where I realized that I was still bringing this like toxic hustle culture, because I think hustle can be good when it's in alignment, but it was this like toxic hustle culture that I was still bringing into my entrepreneurship. And I became kind of confused, because I was like, I thought this was my goal. I thought that we become entrepreneurs not only to make the world a better place, but so that we can like feel good and be more free than we would be otherwise. And I wasn't feeling that. And so I got kind of all these like whispers from the universe of like, hey, maybe this isn't in alignment. Maybe you should stop traveling or like re-examine your life. But I was stubborn and I wasn't in alignment, and so I wasn't listening. And I just kept going. And then universe gave me a divine slap in the face, and I got into a crazy motorbike accident in Indonesia that basically almost cut my leg off, and it was super gory. I'll spare you all the details, but it was very scary, and I'm grateful to have my foot and to be able to walk. And basically, that was just the beginning of everything. And then there was a series of complications and all these things where I ended up just having to spend 6 months of 2019 just on bed rest, and I felt so like just blocked of like, this doesn't feel like my highest self, this doesn't feel like the fullest expression of myself, like I'm just here miserable. The only activity I'm doing is moving from the bed to the couch wearing a 10-pound cast on my leg. And I fell into just like this super dark mindset of being cut off from everything that I thought that I loved. But really, now that I kind of have a bigger picture perspective of it, the universe was just like putting me on the path that I needed to be on, because I was so far out of alignment from my actual purpose, and was misguided on what I thought I needed to be doing. And so it ultimately was a gift, and it was so painful and it was so dark, but that's kind of what alchemy is and where like the best creations come from. And so through all the pain, both physically and I mean mentally is the hardest part of injuries, as I'm sure most people can attest to, and eventually got plopped back here in Colorado, and kind of took that time that I had on bed rest, which the only tools I had at the time were my breath and meditation, and I was disconnected from my community. I couldn't go out and shoot photos, I couldn't hike, I couldn't be in nature, I couldn't use my body or do yoga or run or any of the tools that I used before. So I really dove deep into writing and journaling and meditation and yoga. And once I came back to Colorado, I was in PT and I was reteaching myself how to walk again and kind of like bridging that mind-body connection again, since my mind needed to reteach this leg how to walk. And through that, I kind of still was using these tools of yoga and meditation. And so for the second half of 2019, I kind of started to realize that I was like, oh, this is benefiting me. Like my life and my business started to completely transform in terms of the relationships I was attracting, the clients I was attracting, and it all just became like more ease came into my life after getting injured, which is the weirdest thing, because it was like this complication that I'd never dealt with before, but it guided me to these tools, which ultimately led me to learning about feminine energy versus masculine energy, and that we all have both inside of us, and it's like this fluid spectrum. But I had been too far into my like toxic masculine that I had learned from engineering school, and I'm so grateful for engineering school and all the lessons it taught me, but just kind of picking up on the fact that it had caused me to like burn out and like hustle like nonstop all the time and not give myself any space for rest. And so the accident really led me to these tools of compassion and gentleness and like feminine energy and flow and ease, and that when we incorporate that kind of balance of both feminine and masculine energy into our business and lives, things just start to kind of like flow and feel more in alignment. And so with experiencing these transformations in my business, I kind of looked around and realized this was a very common problem with entrepreneurs, and feeling like, because it's hard when you're passionate about what you do, you want to work at it all the time. You want to, like, hustle comes naturally. It's not a question of like, oh, I need to motivate myself. Like, motivation is not a problem for most entrepreneurs, but what is a problem is giving ourselves the space to cut off from work and disconnect from work and actually rest and create that space to be like, because when we're busying ourselves all the time, that's almost a numbing activity of not actually facing our problems. And so
we're almost taught that, right? We're taught that maybe you should only sleep 4 hours so you can work more. And if you're not waking up at 4 a.m, then you're not going to make it to the highest point. And why would you go to this party when you could stay home and work?
Exactly.
And I feel like that in itself is so negative to entrepreneurs, like you're saying, and just anyone in the work field.
Exactly. That's like spot on. And like all the resources and tools that are out there for entrepreneurs. Like I remember when I was first starting off, like I love podcasts now, but I almost went like way too ham on podcasts in the beginning. And I was like, I need to learn all the knowledge. And everyone was like, if you don't do these 10 things before 8 a.m., then you're going to have a bad day. Like, and I was like, okay, I guess. And then like, I would just got like way too into the like routines, where I was like attached to the routines and the structure and the rules that everyone tells you should be doing.
You have to have this perfect morning routine, or else the rest of your day sucks. And then so does your week, and you're going to fail at life.
Yes, exactly. And I found that like a lot of the tools that were out there, and this isn't about like men versus women or anywhere on the gender spectrum, it's about the energy behind it. And a lot of the tools out there were very, very masculine. And I didn't find a lot of resources at the time that were talking about kind of the balance between the two. And like, yes, of course we need hustle, and of course we need to like actually take action towards our goals, but we also need that space to rest and connect to ourselves and pour into ourselves. And so honestly, it all kind of started like coming to me back to kind of like the whole Happy Humans project idea, that the first 3 years of my entrepreneurial journey, I had this vision of like, I want to have this podcast, and I know I'm so passionate about connecting people together, and I want to like make the world a better place, but it was so blurry. The vision was so blurry, and it's almost like I needed these life experiences to fall in like puzzle pieces of like giving me the lessons I needed to like ascend to the next level. And so with the accident and the multitude of lessons that came along with that, it kind of just like came to me one day, and I mean, you guys can cut this shit out if you want, but microdosing mushrooms helped a ton with that. And I basically spent this whole day following my intuition and did like the babiest microdose of mushrooms, and spent the morning in meditation and connecting to basically my higher self and asking her to guide me and saying that I had these visions and I needed support on how they were going to be brought to life. And I started following my intuition, and I started writing, and then it just came to me. Like it was like a download from the universe of like, this is the name, this is what it looks like, this is what it feels like, and this is what you're going to do with it. And this was like 2 a.m. one night.
That's beautiful. And honestly, I think 90% of the people that I have talked to who have started, either a business or organization, they all say it just came to money.
Right.
And so many people kind of overthink starting a business, and you kind of saying, you know, you had all these expectations for yourself at the beginning, and it almost seemed like you were forcing it, right?
Right.
Whereas now you see it just rippling.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that's the important distinction is we can feel so like rushed to have like the full vision like come out, and we're like we all see what we're capable of, and so we want it to just like
now
be there. Yeah, and I think it was like you said, like just like allowing it and like just like surrendering to like allowing it to like the vision to kind of like ripple out from me. And it started with like that one moment that was kind of like, ooh, this is what it's called. And I just had the name, and it was just like the Happy Humans Project, and I was like, and I was like, I don't know what this is, but I have this name. And then like it was kind of just like over time, the vision slowly became like clearer and clearer. And I think when we allow ourselves that like presence to just be with life and surrender and just allow and experience life instead of like forcing things all the time, I feel like that's when we get like the clearest connection to our intuition and the clearest connection to our higher self, whatever you want to call it, guidance, like intuition, anything that kind of gives us those answers that we're seeking in like the most clear form.
I love that. That's beautiful. Since then, what have you guys done? What kind of events have you guys done, or projects, and what are in the works?
Yeah, so kind of how that all evolved to what it is now is we started, our first event was in January of 2020, which was kind of cool for me because the accident happened in January 2019. So it felt like this full circle. Like a year ago, I was miserable. A year ago, I was in Indonesia by myself, confused as hell with this like crazy ass injury, and then being able to like kind of like witness the alchemization of that. It turned into our first ever event was called Ditch the Hustle, but I should rephrase that. Toxic hustle. I do believe some hustle is necessary, and yeah, so it was basically a panel of amazing entrepreneurs in Denver who I felt were like the biggest embodiment of the Happy Humans Project motto, which is when we show up for ourselves, we show up for the world. And like all of us as entrepreneurs want to make the world a better place, but we're best equipped to do that when we pour into ourselves and when we're taking care of ourselves and feeling good so that we can take that action and hustle from a place of heart-centered action and inspired action rather than forcing. And so, yeah, the first event was all these amazing entrepreneurs who embody exactly that, and just speaking to them about their experiences with that, how they've built businesses that are like thriving and abundant, and they still create space for themselves to like feel good, because a lot of times our role models in the entrepreneurial journey are people that are, like you said, like burning out all the time. So that was our first ever event, and then we did another event that was more community networking, and then we've done more intimate events that have been like smaller dinners with journaling and meditation exercises. For a while, we were hosting meditations at this weekly entrepreneurial meetup in Denver, and really anything geared towards community and mindset and just balance of stillness and rest and action all together is kind of what we're about.
And then you also started your podcast, right?
And we have a podcast. Yeah, so the Happy Humans podcast began in April, and that was of this year, which was basically like when everything shut down. And I'm sure, as you guys can relate, like it was like, what do we do?
Right.
Not events. Like I'm gonna miss them so much, and they'll be back. But it was kind of perfect timing. I had always seen a podcast in the vision, and as well as kind of like a digital video media element to it as well. And wanted to end every episode on a dance party, so we do that too. But yeah, so then it just kind of evolved into the Happy Humans podcast, which is about pretty similar things of just like humans who are embodying that, hearing more about their stories and their journeys of kind of doing it unconventionally and how they've been able to succeed through that.
Oh yeah, I've heard every episode so far.
It's yes, great. Thank you.
And I recently saw this video that you made where you went around and you asked a bunch of creatives, entrepreneurs in Denver, you know, what makes them happy. And it was such a great video, and I wanted to ask you, what makes you happy?
Ooh, thank you for watching that video too. That was so fun to make. This community is so amazing. What makes me happy is so many things. Community makes me so happy, and I'm Denver's biggest fan. Other cities have this as well, but just the community that we all have here in Denver, and just like the small pockets of community that are everywhere, of all of us just kind of like genuinely supporting each other and like wanting each other to succeed, and really understanding that whole concept of like when one of us rises, all of us rise. Community makes me incredibly happy and fills me up a ton. Telling stories makes me happy. Creating makes me happy. Being in nature makes me incredibly happy. Going on walks, going to my local coffee shop, seeing the same people at like the local cafe, dogs, a lot of things.
What is the biggest lesson that you have learned in this process of creating the Happiest Humans project? Because you learned all these lessons prior, that you went to that point.
Right.
Now that you are, in the moment of the Happiest Humans project, what lesson have you learned?
It's crazy because like I feel like all of our purposes are so connected to like our deep like karmic soul lessons of like the things that we needed to learn, and I feel like it's just this like continual evolution of those same lessons, almost of kind of like, it's almost like when we like recognize something and learn something, like me being like, oh, I can't just be go hustle all the time. I need to create space for rest. It's kind of like you have that moment of realizing that, and then like there's a ton of time that comes after that of like learning how to like actually integrate that lesson and be like, what does this actually look like in practice, and what does this feel like in my life? And so I do feel like that's a continual lesson I've been kind of compounding, is that idea of giving myself space to rest, and coming to, with running like even 3 businesses too, of like the Happy Humans project is the passion project, and then the media agency, and then my own personal business as well. That's a lot to take on. And so there's kind of this voice inside of me that I think it might be my ego, or it might be anxiety, or maybe those 2 things are the same thing, but that it doesn't feel good, and it puts in like, she's really mean to me, like that voice of being like, work harder, you gotta do more, you gotta like, if you want these visions to come to life, like take action, like you can always be doing more, and that just doesn't feel good, that voice. And so I feel like the lesson I'm continually learning is being able to observe that voice, and she's gotten like quieter and quieter over time, but and really understand that when that voice is the most annoying is usually when I need to rest the most, and usually when I need to put work to the side and like create that space for myself. So my friends that have kind of been with me since the beginning of my journey, when I started telling them that I was taking Saturdays and Sundays off of work, they were like, oh my God, like I love that for you. I was like, I know, but yeah, so that's been a big lesson. Is the motto of the Happy Humans project itself is very active within my own life. And then I don't know if this is a lesson, but more so a realization from it is, like the other day I was reflecting and like journaling on gratitude, and I just realized that I was like, holy shit, like this podcast makes me so fulfilled. Like it just fills me up being able to like hear other people's stories and connect with so many amazing humans in the community, and it just feels like this like positive thing for like everyone involved. Like it just is like amplifying like positivity and sharing it with the world. And I feel like that was the biggest lesson, that I was like, oh, this isn't like the Happy Humans project is literally just my passion project at this point. Like it has, as I'm sure you guys can relate as well, like it's cool observing yourself be like so driven and so motivated by something that just feels so connected to your purpose.
Yes. Stillness is something you're talking about. What do you do, to create stillness in your life, to create that peace and rest that you're talking about?
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of evolved for me over time. And one of the things I like to do is just like observe myself and my emotions any given day. So like if I start to feel like out of whack, or if I feel out of alignment or stressed or anxious or anything like that, I just like ask myself the question. I'm like, what do I need right now? Like I'll like close my eyes and just be like, what do I need right now? Because I think too, with what we were talking about, how all the podcasts are kind of telling you what to do to feel good. Yeah. It's like at the end of the day, like only we know what we need in any moment. And so I kind of released, if you would ask me that question like a year ago, I would have been like, these are my routines, this is what I do like every single day. And I do have kind of forms of routines as well, but I would say some of the tools that I turn to the most are, in the morning I try to, most days I keep my phone on airplane mode until after I've done yoga and meditation, because it's that whole idea of like deciding how you want to feel before like taking the rest of the world in. And So on the days when I feel the best and incorporate the most stillness, my mornings usually start with yoga and meditation to just like get into my body and out of my head. And journaling is great. I try to at the end of each day just to like, because a lot of times we do these like morning routines, and then by the time you get to the end of the day, you're like, what were my intentions? Like, I don't even know. Like, it just like all goes by, and it's so much energy. So then I usually like to like close off that energy loop at the end of the day and kind of just like sit in stillness in my bed, and I'll usually just journal quick, like what are all the things that happened today that I'm grateful for, and then what are all the things that happened today that I'm proud of myself for. Because a lot of times when we lay in bed at night, we can like, or at least I used to like get into this cycle of like beating myself up of like, oh, I could have been nicer to this person, or oh, in this conversation I said this, but I should have said this, and like just like nitpicking and like being aware of ourselves and like growing is so important. But like right before we go to bed, it's not the time to do that. And so I usually try and like refocus it back and create that just like one, even if I've had the busiest day on the face of the planet, just like 5 minutes quick, like journaling in bed and closing that energy loop has done wonders for my mindset. Both of those things kind of in the evening and the morning. But yeah, meditation has been huge.
Meditation is, if you haven't tried meditation,
right,
please try it just once.
Literally.
Because it is life-changing in my opinion.
It is, yeah.
And you are so big with gratitude. I think every post that you have posted that I've seen, you talk about gratitude, and I wore my grateful shirt. And I think it was last week when you went to Wisconsin, correct? And you were in the airport for 6 hours, unfortunately. And that same day, I had to fly to New York. And I was so tired when I got to New York. It was like 11:30 p.m. I was exhausted, and I knew I had to wake up at 6 in the morning the next day. And I was just going through Instagram, and your story popped up. And you said something along the lines that I am so grateful to be here, to have a shower. And just right there, my whole perspective changed immediately. So I just wanted to tell you that little small thing to everything that you are seeing on social media, it is reaching someone.
Oh my gosh.
Because it definitely reached me that day, and it changed my mindset that night, where I was like, shit, I am in a dope hotel in New York. I get a shower. And
I love
just grateful.
that. Yeah, it can be so, I mean, traveling is exhausting.
Definitely.
It's so weird. I witnessed that too, that it's weird to like acknowledge kind of how difficult it is to get there, and it's such a process, but then like once you get there, you kind of like forget about all that. You're like, oh, like I'm in this dope place, and like
because it's always that go, like you said. So taking the time to just be still and be grateful and kind of realize where you're at is so beneficial.
Right.
Have you met your expectations for your company? Have you exceeded them? Where are you at there? And I'm talking about the Free Energy Club.
Okay. Expectations is a hard word, because I guess I don't use that word internally with myself. Not that it's a bad word, but I feel like with how I work personally, if I put expectations on myself, then I get anxiety. Then I'm like, I'm not doing this. And like, I've learned through human design, actually, which I highly recommend everyone exploring because it changed my life. But my chart and my human design is very oriented towards just like intuition and flow. And so how I personally operate is very good at bringing visions to life piece by piece. And so I don't necessarily, and there's going to be some entrepreneurs out here that like freak out when I say this, but like I was like, I don't necessarily operate on like a 5-year plan, 10-year plan, like any of that stuff, because for me personally that doesn't work. For me, what works the best is setting like 90-day plans and being like, okay, for the next 90 days, like these are the next steps, and that's kind of how I have felt my visions come to life. And our expectations or our visions are also always evolving too, because it's like, I would say where I'm at now, a year ago, like totally exceeded my expectations. But it's like now I have like this kind of like new set of like visions and expectations. But overall, I'm incredibly grateful with the place that we've gotten to with this. And as with everything, with intention and consistency, it just kind of continually compounds and grows over time. And we've gotten to a place where I'm so grateful for all the clients that I have and that I get to work with, and the humans it's connected me to, and that also feels connected to my purpose. voice and what I'm supposed to be sharing. So I feel very good about everything we've accomplished with the Free Energy Collective and the stories that we're able to share through videos and photos. And yeah.
Is there a certain goal that you have for the rest of the year, or a certain project that you're very excited about?
Yeah. So I mean, basically at the beginning of this year, like I said, like January of this year was the first Happy Humans Project event. So in January of this year, the Happy Humans Project didn't exist. The Free Energy Collective didn't exist, and everything that I'm building out with, I call this the triangle of vision. So it's like those two businesses, and then within Halle Madeleine, I'm helping other creatives and other entrepreneurs learn how to get clients, especially like photographers and videographers, and that didn't exist either. And so I had this like kind of vision for 2020 of what I wanted to accomplish, and then for me personally, I'm very grateful for the role that the pandemic played in this particular situation. Again, like privileged to be able to experience this throughout the quarantine, but I did have kind of that space for stillness and rest to bring those visions to life and build up kind of the back end. So moving forward, it looks like kind of just continuing to bring out that vision of getting the Free Energy to a place where I want it to be, continuing to release Happy Humans Project episodes, and continuing to build out my course. And yeah, this year has been going very well goal-wise. And
what's your course about?
Teaching photographers and videographers how to get clients. And yeah, so it's been fun watching those all come to life. And I would say I'm in a good place with it. I feel good about where I'm at now. I feel good about where it's going, and I'm excited to see what 2021 brings as well.
It's exciting. Congrats.
Thank you.
So final question is, what does a hustler mean to you?
Ooh. To me, a hustler means someone who's connected to their unique role and their unique purpose, and is committed to bringing that to life in a way that makes them feel good, makes the people around them feel good, and leaves the world better than they found it.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here and just talking about your experience and just giving so much insight on this podcast. Really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you so much. This was so fun.
And if you like this podcast, this episode, please leave us a review, share it with a friend, share it on your social media. If you haven't subscribed to our daily motivational text messages, go to mindsettext.com. It's completely free. You get a free text message every morning at 7 a.m. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
we out.
Thinking too much lately, got a lot on my brain. Come keep me company while I go insane. Don't ask me to talk about it, 'cause that ain't my thing. No questions, no answers, don't push me, no pressure, let's keep it that way. To love, I keep it all bottled up, and I keep on switching up on you. But I want you here right now. Can we focus on here and now? Just need you, can you just be around? Be around. Come keep me company. Baby, just you and me. Can we focus on here and now? Don't wanna lose myself. I don't mean to confuse you. You know that I'd never use you. I just want you to stay. I don't wanna push you away. Been captain myself lately, so don't mind if I do. Promise you won't hate me if I fill the void with you. I know that I'm hard to love. I keep it all bottled up, and I Focus.